Despite his terrible losses, Grant was determined to get between Lee and Richmond. On the 7th of May, he gave orders for the army to converge and occupy the crossroads at Spotsylvania Court House. This would, he calculated, force Lee to attack his much larger army. But Lee learned from the reports of his cavalry that Grant was on the move. He knew where Grant was headed, and Lee was no less determined to get there first. On May 8th, Lee's force reached the crossroads just minutes ahead of the Federal army. The two sides would engage in a bloody yet inconclusive fight all that day. But the delay would give Lee's men time to extend their lines and fortify their positions. On May 9th, Grant probed the miles of Confederate fortifications looking for a weak spot. His men would be most successful on the Confederate left, but the fighting there proved to be just as inconclusive as the previous day. But on May 10th, things would begin to escalate. In the center of the Confederate line was a salient that jutted out about a half a mile from the rest of the line. It would come to be known as the Mule Shoe. The Federals decided to attack this Mule Shoe with a force of 12 regiments, about 5,000 men. But instead of attacking on a wide front as was done so often in the past, the suggestion was made to stack the regiments 3 wide and 4 deep. The Yanks would then hit the line at a full run, with bayonets fixed. The men would be ordered not to stop and fire. At 6 p.m., after scattered fighting all day, the 5,000 Union infantry burst from the woods and hit the Mule Shoe like a hammer. The plan worked just like the Federals had hoped. The fast-moving compact force broke through Lee's formidable line and was threatening to undo the entire Confederate position. But concentrated rebel artillery fire and determined counterattacks forced the gap closed. So pleased was Grant with the results of the day that he would order a duplicate attack on the apex of the Mule Shoe the next day. Only this time he would use an entire corps. Rain would delay the assault until the 12th. Shrouded by the morning fog, Grant would send 20,000 men right at the teeth of the Confederate line. The salient would explode in one of the most violent clashes of the war. Lee's men would fall back, reinforce, and drive the Federals back to the trench line. There they would fight it out with Grant's men for the better part of the next 24 hours. The carnage was unprecedented. On May 13th, the exhausted Federals awoke to find the rebels had fallen back to a second set of entrenchments. Grant and Meade decided not to attack again. Lee's line would hold. The two armies would face each other for another 8 days until Grant pulled his men out of line to renew his stubborn flanking moves, forcing Lee to counter. The stalemate at Spotsylvania Court House would cost Grant 11,000 casualties, and Lee about 9,000.